Welcome to my Chanel soft feminine. The first time I felt confident in her outfit, it scared me more than anything I'd ever done. I was standing alone in my room, door locked, curtains half drawn like I was hiding from the world, even though the world wasn't looking for me. My heart was racing, not because I was rushing, but because I wasn't. I was taking my time, and that made it real. The outfit lay on my bed, carefully arranged, like it belonged there. Like it had always belonged there. The fabric caught the light softly, smooth and inviting, nothing dramatic, yet everything about it felt dangerous. "This is ridiculous," I whispered, my voice barely steady. "You're just trying on clothes." But my hands were shaking as I picked it up. The moment I pulled it over my head, my breath caught. The fabric slid down my skin, lighter than anything I'd worn before, settling against my body in a way that felt intentional. I froze, standing there half-dressed, afraid to move, as if movement would break the spell. Then I looked in the mirror. And the shock hit me all at once. My posture was different. My shoulders weren't hunched the way they usually were. My face looked calmer, softer, more awake. My heart started pounding harder, not with panic, but with disbelief. "Is that me?" I whispered. I took a step closer. Then another. I expected to feel embarrassed. Ashamed. Wrong. Instead, I felt exposed in a way that felt honest. I adjusted the outfit instinctively, smoothing it down, tilting my head, watching how it moved with me. My body responded without instructions, like it had been waiting for permission. A nervous laugh escaped my lips. Wow. That single word carried fear, excitement, curiosity, all tangled together. Because confidence wasn't supposed to feel like this. It wasn't supposed to arrive quietly, settle into my chest, and make me stand a little taller. And that terrified me. Because if this felt right, then what did that say about everything I'd been pretending to be? I stared at my reflection longer than I ever had before. And for the first time, I didn't want to look away. The next morning, the shock from the night before hadn't left me. In fact, it clung to me, sticky and persistent, like I'd accidentally walked into someone else's skin and couldn't peel it off. My usual routine, shower, breakfast, coffee, felt alien. Every motion reminded me of what I'd done, what I'd felt. Even brushing my teeth, I caught glimpses of my reflection in the mirror, and my chest tightened. The reflection didn't look the same as the face I'd known all my life. Something subtle had shifted. Something undeniable. At breakfast, I sat across from my family, trying to appear normal. They chatted about trivial things, the weather, the news, the neighbor's dog that always barked at the wrong time, but I couldn't focus. My fork hovered midair more than once, my spoon clinking against the plate in nervous rhythms. Every glance toward me felt loaded, as if my thoughts could be read in my eyes. And maybe, in some way, they could. "You've been quiet lately," my sister said finally, pausing mid-chew. She studied me, frowning, as though she could sense the storm behind my calm exterior. "I'm fine," I lied. A simple phrase, but it tasted bitter. The rest of the day was even worse. At work, the world felt sharper, louder, more intrusive. The same fluorescent lights, the same computers, the same stale office air. I noticed everything. The hum of printers seemed louder, the clatter of keyboards more pronounced. Colleagues spoke as they always did, but their voices sounded distant, like underwater echoes. When someone passed by my desk and glanced at me, I felt naked. Their eyes weren't really on me, but I could feel the gaze slicing through the facade I'd worn for years. "Everything okay?" asked Mark, my co-worker, leaning against the edge of my desk. His tone was casual, but I could tell he sensed the tension. "Yeah, just tired," I mumbled, trying to sound natural, but the words felt like they belonged to someone else entirely. By lunchtime, my mind had drifted into loops I couldn't escape. I kept replaying the image from last night, the way the outfit had felt, how my body had responded, the spark of recognition I'd seen in the mirror. Every memory brought a flush of heat to my cheeks. I shoved my sandwich into my mouth faster than necessary, trying to distract myself, but it didn't work. Nothing worked. My body and mind were at odds. My exterior played the part of the person I'd always been, but internally, a storm raged. The bus ride home was a torture of hyper-awareness. I caught my reflection in every darkened window. Every twitch, every shift of my posture, every glance, too revealing. A small part of me panicked at the thought that someone might see past the facade, that they might know. When I finally arrived home, I bolted to the spare room and shut the door behind me, as if locking the world out would contain the chaos inside. I sat on the edge of the bed, hands clasped tightly, trying to slow my racing heart. My thoughts were relentless. Am I imagining this? Am I losing my mind? Why does it feel so right? Dinner that evening was even worse. Family chatter filled the room, clinking forks and murmured jokes acting as background noise, but I felt like I was underwater. Every laugh, every casual comment about boys doing this or girls doing that stung in ways I couldn't articulate. I wanted to escape. I wanted to vanish. I wanted to scream and admit everything and also hide at the same time. But I didn't. I forced myself to smile, to nod, to laugh a fraction of a second too late at a joke. That night, lying awake, the memory of the outfit, the feel of the fabric, the subtle thrill of standing in front of the mirror and seeing something unrecognizable yet undeniably me, it consumed me. Sleep refused to come. My chest tightened with a mixture of fear, longing, and the faintest whisper of excitement. I realized, with a jolt, that I was standing at the edge of something enormous. Something irreversible. And I had no idea what would happen next. I didn't plan it. That's the lie I kept telling myself as I stood outside my bedroom door that night, hand hovering over the knob, heart racing like I was about to commit a crime. The house was quiet, too quiet. Everyone else was asleep. The kind of silence that makes you hyper-aware of your own breathing. Just one more time, I thought. Just to understand. The door clicked shut behind me, and I leaned against it, eyes closed, grounding myself. My chest rose and fell slowly as I tried to calm the nervous electricity buzzing through my body. Then I crossed the room and knelt, pulling the bag out from under the bed. The sound of the zipper felt deafening. Inside were the clothes I'd bought and hidden, items I hadn't even fully looked at since bringing them home. I took them out one by one, laying them across the bed carefully, like they were fragile. The colors were soft. The fabrics looked forgiving. Nothing loud. Nothing exaggerated. And yet my hands trembled. This doesn't mean anything, I whispered to myself. It's just exploring. But my body reacted before my mind finished the sentence. I started slowly. Atop first. Pulling it over my head, feeling the fabric slide down my back, settle against my chest. I paused, eyes closed, letting the sensation wash over me. It felt different from before, less shocking, more familiar. My shoulders relaxed without me telling them to. Then the rest. Each piece felt like a small step deeper into something I didn't yet have language for. I adjusted the fit, turned side to side, watching how the clothes moved with me instead of against me. I noticed details I'd never cared about before, how the fabric caught the light, how seams followed lines I'd never paid attention to. I approached the mirror slowly. This time, I didn't brace myself. My reflection looked intentional. Still unsure. Still cautious. But no longer accidental. I lifted my chin slightly, testing how that felt. Different. Stronger. I rested my weight on one leg, then the other, watching how my posture shifted naturally. A soft laugh escaped me. Okay, I said quietly. I see you. I sat down at my desk and opened the small makeup pouch I'd bought on impulse. The items inside felt intimidating at first, tools for a version of myself I wasn't sure I was allowed to be. I picked one up, turned it over in my fingers, then set it down again. Slow, I reminded myself. I followed tutorials in my head, experimenting carefully. My first attempts were clumsy. Too much here. Uneven there. I wiped it off, tried again. Each failure taught me something. Each small success sent a spark of excitement through my chest. When I finally looked up again, really looked, my breath caught. My eyes looked more expressive. My face felt awake. I leaned closer to the mirror, studying myself, whispering, "Is this really me?" The answer didn't come as words. It came as calm. I practiced moving next, walking across the room, turning, sitting, standing. I noticed how I carried myself when I wasn't trying to be anything. I practiced my voice softly, not forcing it higher or lower, just letting it find its own place. I spoke sentences out loud, hearing myself as myself. I like this, I admitted quietly. Time disappeared. At some point, I found myself sitting on the edge of the bed, smoothing the fabric over my legs, breathing deeply. A wave of emotion hit me out of nowhere, so sudden it made my chest ache. My eyes burned. My throat tightened. I didn't know, I whispered. I didn't know this was missing. Tears slid down my face, not from sadness, but from recognition. From relief. From the strange grief of realizing how long I'd gone without feeling this connected to myself. Taking everything off later felt harder than before. I folded each piece carefully, respectfully, like I was putting away something precious. When I finally stood in front of the mirror in my old clothes again, the reflection felt distant. Not wrong. Just incomplete. But I wasn't panicking anymore. Because now I knew this wasn't a phase. Or a joke. Or a mistake. It was discovery. And discovery doesn't disappear once you've seen it. The first time I left the house like that, I felt every nerve in my body screaming. It wasn't a dramatic outfit, just a soft blouse, fitted jeans, and shoes that felt light on my feet, but stepping outside made my stomach twist like I was walking on a tightrope without a net. My heart pounded so loud it felt like it would announce itself to the world. Every step I took felt deliberate, as if the air around me was waiting to judge, to catch me in some misstep. You can still turn back, I whispered to myself. You don't have to do this. But I didn't want to. Not anymore. The street was quiet. Cars passed slowly. The cool evening air brushed my face, grounding me, reminding me that the world hadn't changed, but I had. Every footstep felt deliberate, measured. I noticed the sway of my hips, the way my shoulders fell naturally, the rhythm of movement I had unconsciously practiced in front of mirrors, late at night, in the privacy of my room. A few people walked by. I kept my gaze forward, trying not to flinch under the weight of their attention, or what I imagined was attention. Some glanced at me. A few didn't notice at all. No one laughed. No one whispered. Nothing catastrophic happened. The small cafe I ducked into felt surreal. The bell chimed as I entered, and my pulse jumped. "Hi there," the barista said, smiling as if nothing about me was unusual. I nodded, murmured my order, and found a corner table. The reflection in the glass window caught my eye, and for the first time in public, I saw me. Not a fragment. Not a disguise. Not a shadow of someone I was pretending to be. Just me, standing there, existing. The confidence I felt was quiet. Subtle. Not showy. Not loud. But undeniable. Each sip of coffee grounded me. Each glance at my reflection reassured me. I realized I hadn't panicked. I hadn't run. I hadn't wished myself back into hiding. I had stayed. And I was alive. The next weekend, I pushed further. A walk in the park. A stop at a bookstore. Each outing added layers to this new self. I experimented with small movements, letting my body settle into comfort without forcing it. I noticed how some people's smiles felt warmer when I met their gaze directly. I observed how I navigated space differently, lighter, freer, yet still cautious. There were awkward moments. A woman glanced at me twice, her expression briefly questioning. I felt my chest tighten, hands clenching, but I didn't retreat. I let the moment pass. A man hesitated before speaking to me. I smiled politely, my voice steady, and he relaxed. I felt a small thrill at each tiny victory. I practiced subtle makeup adjustments in my reflection at the cafe. A brush here. A dab there. No one noticed. No one cared. And the fact that no one noticed was both terrifying and liberating. I learned to carry myself without apology. To occupy space that had once felt too large for me. To speak softly but confidently. Each step forward, each measured risk, was a reclamation of myself. One evening, returning home, I passed a shop window and froze. My reflection caught the streetlight just right, and I stopped. I stared, really stared. The person looking back wasn't someone pretending to be confident. Not someone copying someone else. Not someone performing. It was me. And for the first time, I didn't flinch. I smiled. I should have known the secret wouldn't stay hidden forever. It happened on a day that began like any other. I'd spent the morning at work, quietly testing my confidence, letting it settle into my bones. I felt light, capable, almost invincible in a way I hadn't before. I wore the outfit I'd chosen carefully, subtle, deliberate, meant to reflect me, and it made my body hum with familiarity and strength. When I came home earlier than expected, I realized too late that the house wasn't empty. Her shoes were by the door. My stomach sank. Panic rose like a tidal wave. For a brief second, I considered turning around, pretending I'd forgotten something, slipping away. But the door was already open. She was there. Standing in the living room, calm, serene, scanning the room like nothing had changed. My chest tightened. My feet felt rooted to the floor. "In the living room," she called, voice casual, but I could hear the undercurrent of curiosity. I stepped inside slowly, each movement deliberate, each second stretching longer than it should. I hadn't changed yet. I hadn't prepared. I felt every layer of myself, every secret, every desire laid bare. She looked up. Her eyes traveled over me, not judgmental, not shocked, not laughing, just observing. And that gaze, calm and patient, made me feel simultaneously exposed and understood. "Oh," she said softly. I stumbled over words I hadn't rehearsed. I can explain," I managed. "I wasn't trying to. This isn't a joke, I didn't mean to." She raised a hand, stopping me. "Hey. Breathe." I tried. Failed. Tried again. Silence filled the room. It wasn't uncomfortable. It wasn't hostile. But it was weighty, thick, like the space itself was holding its breath. My mind ran through every possible scenario: anger, rejection, laughter, being told to stop, being forced to hide. I braced myself for all of it. Instead, she asked one simple question. "How long?" The calmness of it broke something inside me. "A while," I admitted, voice trembling. I didn't plan for it to happen. It just did. She studied my face carefully, really looked at me. Not at the clothes. Not at the makeup. At me. "You look scared," she said. "I am," I whispered. "Because I don't know how to go back." The word surprised both of us. The truth hung between us like a fragile glass. She exhaled slowly, then gestured to the sofa. "Sit." I obeyed, hands clenched in my lap, like bracing for a verdict. "Are you hurting anyone?" she asked. "No." "Are you forcing this on anyone?" "No." "Does this make you feel more like yourself?" I hesitated. Every instinct screamed at me: hide. Apologize. Pretend. But something inside me demanded honesty. "Yes," I said, barely above a whisper. "More than anything ever has." Her shoulders relaxed slightly. "Then why would I want to take that away from you?" The tension in my chest broke all at once. My hands dropped. Tears blurred my vision. I felt a wave of relief, fear, and joy crashing simultaneously. "I was so scared," I choked. "I thought you'd hate me." She leaned closer, voice steady, warm. "I don't hate you. I hate that you felt like you had to hide." That was it. That was the choice. The one I'd been avoiding, the choice between shrinking back into the life I'd always known, or stepping fully into the one I was becoming. I lowered my hands from my face. "I can't go back," I said quietly. "Even if it costs me things." She nodded. "Then don't." And just like that, the fear that had gripped me for weeks, the fear of exposure, rejection, judgment, shifted into something unfamiliar and powerful: freedom. For the first time, the decision didn't feel like loss. It felt like life. After that conversation, something shifted deep inside me. It wasn't immediate. There was no magical transformation overnight. Life continued: emails, meetings, casual chatter, errands. But I moved through it differently. My steps were steadier. My posture more relaxed. My breath came easier. It wasn't the world that changed. It was me. The next morning, I stood in front of the mirror longer than usual, not to scrutinize, not to rehearse, but to check in with myself. I traced the contours of my face, the curve of my shoulders, the way the clothes I now chose felt like an extension of my body instead of a disguise. How do I want to show up today? I asked my reflection. The answer came effortlessly. I dressed intentionally, nothing extreme, nothing flamboyant. Clothes that reflected me, soft, confident, comfortable. I didn't hide. I didn't apologize. I simply existed in the way I felt right. When I stepped into the living room, she looked up and smiled. "You look good," she said simply. "Not brave. Not different. Just good. I let out a small laugh I hadn't known I could release in public. My chest unclenched, my shoulders relaxed. I was home in my own skin. At work, I continued the practice. I didn't announce my choices. I didn't demand recognition. I simply stopped shrinking. I spoke when I had something to say. I held my hands naturally instead of constantly tucking them away. I allowed myself to occupy space that had once felt too big for me. Some colleagues paused, glanced, hesitated, but I didn't falter. Each small interaction was a victory. Each moment I didn't retreat strengthened me further. Outside of work, I explored spaces where I could truly be myself. Coffee shops, quiet parks, bookstores. Each outing taught me subtle lessons. Which movements felt authentic, which words carried my own voice, how my posture and gaze could convey confidence without demand. And slowly, the fear that had haunted me faded. Not completely, it lingered in corners, as all fears do, but it no longer dictated my choices. I discovered communities I'd only admired from a distance before. People who understood without explanation. People who laughed with me, encouraged me, shared tips, and celebrated small victories. With them, I experimented more openly. Different hairstyles, clothing, even ways of speaking. Each experiment reinforced something I had always known deep down: authenticity is magnetic. Confidence grows when nurtured, practiced, and protected. One evening, walking home beneath soft streetlights, I paused. My reflection caught in the shop window. I stopped, really stopped, and studied the person looking back. I didn't flinch. I didn't shrink. I smiled. The reflection wasn't someone performing. It wasn't someone trying to fit in. It was someone alive. Someone present. Someone finally aligned with the person I had always been underneath the layers of fear, expectation, and habit. I had discovered something crucial. Empowerment doesn't mean never feeling afraid. It means moving forward despite fear. It means choosing yourself when the world might not understand. It means stepping fully into life, knowing who you are and owning it without apology. And for the first time, I could honestly say, I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. Sometimes, late at night, I find myself thinking back to that first moment. The moment I stood in front of her outfit, heart pounding, hands trembling, unsure if I was about to destroy everything I thought I knew about myself. Back then, the fear was almost unbearable. The excitement was almost impossible to contain. I felt like I was stepping into someone else's life without a map. Now, I realize it wasn't stepping into someone else's life at all. It was stepping into my own. I didn't become someone new. I didn't erase the person I had been. I discovered her, the part of me that had been quietly waiting, gently nudging me, whispering that it was okay to exist as I truly was. That part of me, hidden for so long, finally had a voice. And I listened. There are still difficult days. Moments when the world's gaze feels heavy. Days when I want to shrink back into invisibility, just to be safe. But even then, I know something I didn't before: authenticity is stronger than fear. Confidence isn't about perfection, it's about showing up, being seen, and refusing to apologize for who you are. To anyone watching this who has ever stood at a door, hand on the knob, heart racing with curiosity and fear, you don't need permission to explore. You don't need approval to exist. You don't need anyone else to define your happiness. Transformation isn't about clothes, makeup, or labels. It's about courage. It's about honesty. It's about allowing yourself to step fully into the life that's been waiting for you all along. For me, it began with her outfit. It ended in my own skin. And I've never felt more at home.